Hello, everyone, and welcome back to At Your Fingertips, Braille Then and Now. This is Chris with an awesome episode today that covers a few really fascinating topics. I'm thinking recently about an email I received from a listener, and they suggested that I check out the Braille 200 project page. It's a really great resource and a wonderful read. People write in about their experiences and uses with Braille, and I think it's really fascinating to read all the different articles that are up there. So if you'd like to check it out, it will be found at the livingbraille.eu/author/Braille-200, the number 200. And we'll post that link in the show notes or on the website. I really found it interesting. There's an article each day, and you can click through and read to your heart's content. I'm going to binge read on some of these in the very near future when I'm on vacation. Also on this website, which I found really interesting for all the topics that involve Braille. In daily life, for instance, there is a link for Braille in daily life that involves shopping, kitchen, marking documents, products, and technical devices. And all these are links that can be found on the main page of the livingbraille.eu. There's another link about Braille games and toys, adapted games and special games on the topic of Braille. There's another section on Braille joys and fun. It's about Braille art and jewelry, clothes and other things in Braille. I know there are some companies here in the U.S. that specialize in Braille jewelry. And of course, in the U.S. here, you can find anything on Etsy, I think. So Etsy or Amazon. So I've gotten some Braille jewelry in little pieces before, so they're really fun. Good conversation starters. Also, there's an article on Braille devices and tools, and oftentimes these are sections with articles. This was a really good one. Braille displays, function, and intro, and of new devices. This was a great article, How to Choose a Braille Display. It was a really great, well-written article that talked a lot about what are your needs. Do you need portability? Are you wanting to use QWERTY or Braille input? What features and functions do you need? Do you need a full-fledged, say, note-taker function, or do you need a basic Braille display? How many cells would you benefit from? It was a really well-written article. And also it referenced a book that was written on the topic. And so I think that book is called Braille on Display. Then there's a great list of Braille display manufacturers included in there. Then we have an article on Braille software and screen readers that work with Braille, and etc. And then there is another article on Braille devices and tools, even about the humble slate and stylus. Then we have an article or section on teaching Braille. And then there's a section on Braille resources and Braille codes. Interestingly enough, the different language codes, there are articles there on the music code, the math code, computer code, lots of codes. And finally, they have a newsletter sign up and their social media link. So the livingbraille.eu is a really fascinating website. And then specifically the Braille Project 200 page, which, as I say again, I am going to absolutely binge read. Next, I wanted to tell you about a great experience I had recently. It does have to do with Braille because this person has Braille on all of her products, but I recently did some filming with The Blind Kitchen. This is a friend of mine, owns a business called The Blind Kitchen, and she sells tools that are especially useful for people who are blind or have low vision. And sighted folks could absolutely benefit from these tools. But for instance, the silicone egg ring that she sells, it will keep your egg where it's supposed to be, and it makes it so much easier to cook and turn, and anybody could benefit from that. What I wanted to mention about her products is that she makes sure that all the packaging has Braille on it. So she has it done. It looks like a large Post-it or shipping label that's been affixed to the packaging, and it says what product is inside. And when you get a whole order, or if you order a bunch of things, it's really great to not to have to guess. I wonder what this is. I'll open it up. Oh yeah, that's that thing. So it's really great. And so the Blind Kitchen and Deborah Erickson are great resources for all things cooking, because as she says, everyone has a seat at the table. Next, I wanted to talk about Monarch Musings. That's kind of my little quip, little catchphrase for what I'm doing lately with the APH Monarch that has been developed in conjunction with Humanware. And I know not everyone is going to be able to get one of these things, and I applied for the inclusion in this project, and the machine is almost 18,000 US dollars. So I realize that I'm talking about a product rather that's out of reach for most people, but I do have some relevant things to share with you. I wanted to talk about my exploration of tactile graphics, and especially in wanting to create some tactile graphics, and just some of the issues that has brought up and that I'm excited to learn about. So even if you don't have a Monarch, have never seen one, hang on and you'll get something out of this, I think. So in creating tactile graphics, we're mostly creating line drawings. And what we hope to communicate with those line drawings are several things. I think the shape of something, if there are two things, is one thing half the size or twice the size of the other. And also, one thing that's really confusing to me still as a person born blind is the matter of when there's a flat image and it's really a three-dimensional object. Are we taking the picture basically from the top down, from the side? Is it a cross section? And I'm able to turn those images around in my mind, but it takes me a minute to figure out how we're orienting ourselves to the image as blind people. And so I think it will be really helpful to include that information with any tactile graphic that is shared. If you happen to be a teacher or a student or somebody who's looking at a tactile graphic, examining it, feeling it, maybe ask, can I feel the original object if possible? And not possible when we're examining, like, we have pictures of animals and elephants and lions and tigers and bears, oh my. But, just an everyday object, it's particularly helpful. I was visiting with a friend recently, and they had some other friends over, and we were listening to a baseball game. And I looked up all things baseball on the Monarch Braille display because it has a wonderful tactile graphics library. And there was a baseball helmet there. And so it was oriented in such a way that really didn't make sense to me. And so one of the people who was visiting brought over his baseball cap and let me feel it and said, okay, the bill is pointing this way. And, so it was really helpful to feel the original and also to examine and figure out, oh, okay, we're looking at this from the side. So really the first thing I'm going to feel is like where the person's right ear would be. And then as I move straight ahead, I'm going across the helmet basically, and then I'm traveling over to the other side where the left ear is. So that was really super helpful. So as I wanted to create my first tactile graphics, I asked Mr. ChatGPT to create a graphic of the iPhones on the home screen of a standard iPhone. And I mentioned that I had an iPhone 15. And so ChatGPT did this. I also instructed it to describe those icons, which it did. And I passed that description to Ira, and they confirmed that it was right. There was only a couple little minor changes. And then I downloaded the graphics to the Monarch, and it was really fascinating. I could push the plus button a lot of times and make the images bigger and explore, okay, this is an envelope. This is an open book. This is really cool. But the only thing is there were no labels on the graphics. And so I really wished that I could provide those. And I've spent a little bit of time. I'm still learning the Monarch, and this is kind of a higher level type of thing here. But there's a way that you can include Sim Braille, or I suppose we could also use Apple Braille, but it has to be, I believe, a 29-point font or so to be able to be read and not to be too small. And so I'm still working on how to put those graphic labels in so that they are in Braille under each item. And so I think that will be really helpful. The reason I want to make sure that I know the shapes and what the icons look like is that I often teach people who are low vision and they may not be using VoiceOver yet on their iPhone, for instance. And I really need to be able to explore the Braille tactile graphic to remember what these things look like and to be able to communicate that information. And I could also share that a tactile graphic with the low vision person and sort of introduce them to, hey, here's how you can feel things. And here are some tactile ways of exploring something that you may just be looking at. Another thing that I've been enjoying looking at on the Monarch are the maps. I've always loved maps. I mentioned, I think in a previous episode when we talked about games, that there was a game called the United States game, and you have your southern border and your northern border, and you have a little row of pegs, and you get your peg over to the north if you're in the south, and the people in the north get their pegs over to the southern border. And, you know, you spin a little dial and you travel the states, and you can't jump a state and that kind of thing. But it was completely tactile, and the 2-letter abbreviations of our states were in each state's shape. And you also had the matter of perspective, like Rhode Island is this teeny tiny little state, but look how big Texas is. And Oregon is almost square. There's a little piece that goes out. And so knowing the shape of the state and how big the state is in comparison to other states are something that we can gain from a tactile graphic. And so looking at maps has been really fun. Also, I've been exploring flags, thinking about our Independence Day is coming up here. At the time of this recording, it is about 6 days away. And so on July 4th, I'll be thinking about Independence Day for sure, as I have a holiday. And so I thought about the fact that I could look up various flags. And so I was showing someone who had never seen a flag, the Stars and Stripes, and they were really fascinated. Also, apparently most states have a flag, and I was unaware of what our flag looked like in my state. And I was speaking with someone last night wanting to show this person the Monarch over a video call. And this person said, oh, hey, what about the flag of Canada? So I got to feel the maple leaf in the middle of the flag, and it seemed much simpler than our flag here with all of the stars and stripes. And so that was really, really neat to explore different flags. Another thing we can gain from exploring tactile graphics are just really fun things and then gaining some perspective. So as I was exploring all the hundreds and hundreds of possible graphics in the library, I came across a couple characters from Star Wars. And these were the C-3PO and R2-D2 characters. And of course, you know, they just make little noises and things and they don't, you know, speak. And so I had no idea what they look like. So I was really fascinated to pull that graphic up and find that I believe that little R2-D2 is about half the size of C-3PO. So that was pretty fun. Just even that information and the shapes of the little characters is just more than I had before. And it just really gives me an appreciation for things that I had no idea what they look like. And so it's been really fun to explore all the things on the Monarch that I have not had experience with, and also to create my own tactile graphics. So finally, in closing, I just want to say how much I appreciate sharing things with you. I love having your feedback. I've had some really interesting emails, just really encouraging and inspiring. And so please feel free to email us at feedback@unmute.show. And I would love to hear from you. And whether you're in the US or not, thinking about how Braille can provide some independence, whether you're reading labels on measuring cups, as I did in my kitchen recently, or whether you're reading a Braille display or anything like that, you have a level of independence in a different way than you would have had before. And if you're not yet a Braille reader, but you find the topic interesting, there are ways to learn it. And I would encourage you to reach out and just embrace the fact that you can learn the letters, numbers, and punctuation for everyday tasks, and that is absolutely, completely respectable. So I wish you all the best in this upcoming month of July, and I will look forward to chatting with you on the next episode of At Your Fingertips Braille